Oh boy, I've finally been cured from my werewolfism. No longer will it be Larry Talbot, tragic hero, turned Wolfman. No longer will it be Larry Talbot, killer of women, and not in the good way. No, sir. From now on, I'm going to be Larry Talbot, lover of life and women who don't die at the end of the film.
Mr. Launch Handy, sir. Sorry. So I just had to let you know that we're doing another Universal Monster film. Abbott and Costello decided they want to be on it, and they want Wolfman. So you're back on. So just wanted to let you know.
Why won't they just let me die? That's all I want. It's the only way. I have to die.
Welcome back to Entertainment Rebooted and another episode of everybody's favorite series and like the longest lasting series that we've had so far, and for good reason. We are once again talking about the classic Universal monster movies. And of course, since I'm talking about those movies, I'm going to be talking with none other than my esteemed co-host, DJ. Say hi, DJ.
Hello.
All right, DJ, tonight we watch none other than 1948's Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. So, before we get into the good, the bad, the ugly, and the iconic, how about a brief plot summary for those who have yet to see this film?
This one is a little messier than some of the other ones. So, this one starts out with Lon Chaney, of all people, as the Wolfman. After being cured in the previous film, he is back to being a werewolf again, or my headcanon is this happens before the last one, because that way he gets his piece. But he calls ahead to let the male people know in, was it Florida, I think it said?
Yeah, I think it's Florida or New York. It's like a major port. I think it is Florida, though, because it's kind of tropical.
But yeah, he calls ahead that they're not to take a delivery, which they do anyway, to a house of horrors that happens to be Dracula and Frankenstein. And
monster.
Well, yes, sorry, Frankenstein's monster. That is correct. So they go into the house of horrors to deliver these two packages. Abbott and Costello do, as was it Wilbur and
Wilbur and Chet.
Yeah, Wilbur and Chet. So they go their little Abbott and Costello hijinks ensue, but the Frankenstein's monster and Dracula are reanimated, and then Dracula takes Frankenstein's monster with his coffin to the girlfriend of Wilbur, who happens to be a doctor who says that they met ahead of time, who says that they can
the doctor lady, her plot is that she's going to find a way to give Frankenstein a new brain because the one that he has is currently malfunctioning and he's growing weaker.
Yes.
And he's not able to hold a charge, essentially.
And he's also, like, evil. So Dracula wants a brain that's more easily controlled, and Wilbur's the target. And so she's playing him in order to use him to revive Frankenstein's monster. Meanwhile, the owner of the House of Horrors thinks that they stole the bodies that walked away. So he hires an insurance company to go after them, who hires
an investigator for the insurance company.
Yeah. And the investigator, she releases Abbott and Costello from jail in order to follow them, thinking that they are the ones who stole them, and she's going to follow Wilbur to get to them.
Because she thinks that she can seduce him and that he'll just bring her to the bodies that he's stolen.
So everybody assumes they're criminals. They end up going all to the castle together to meet for a date to go on the bayou in order to have a masquerade ball. And then Dracula doesn't actually get betrayed by the doctor. She just says that it's too hot, and she's a former criminal.
And not too hot, like, oh, it's too hot. No, like, she's afraid that people are onto them because she finds out that the woman who came with Wilbur is an investigator.
So the fuzz is too hot on her trail, and she's getting her. So Dracula hypnotizes her, bites her, turns into her in a vampire. She then takes Wilbur, tries to bite him and take him away. She then goes to perform the procedure under Dracula's control. Dracula takes Wilbur and
Chet.
Chet doesn't. Wilbur and the investigator to the island.
Yeah.
In order to eliminate the witnesses and take care of that, Chet and Lon Chaney follow them back to the castle.
After there's been like a mix-up because Chet dressed up like a Wolfman and Lon Chaney, being the Wolfman, turned into a Wolfman and attacked a person. So Chet's been running around all night avoiding the angry mob that's chasing after him for attempting to murder a guy.
Yes.
And I say Lon Chaney, but Larry Talbot is the Wolfman. So they run into each other and it's like, oh my gosh, it's all true. We need to go back to the castle because it turns out that Wilbur is not stupid and is actually telling the truth.
Yeah, and there's a lot of Abbott and Costello hijinks. Like there's a moving wall. It feels very Scooby-Doo-ish in a way too. And that, I mean, Abbott is still a little bit of like the Scooby-Doo hijinks is very much in that same vein to begin with. But it's that whole like running around, running into the monsters, running away, like goofy hijinks kind of stuff, mixed in all of that. They go into the basement earlier on and run and flip around a wall with Dracula and them, stuff like that. So it's a lot of that throughout the film, and then it goes to a climax where it's actually the big monster battle fight that I kind of wanted. Funny enough, this time came in the monster battle fight I wanted in all the other monster films.
Specifically, like the Wolfman versus Frankenstein, or Frankenstein meets the Wolfman.
Yeah. And Wolfman in this one fights both Frankenstein and Dracula.
It's true.
Finally, and then like actually like takes Dracula out. So it's like actually really good. And then, the one guy who like is like not really a major part of this whole film. He's almost kind of a joke. Is the assistant to the Sandra, the doctor who's doing the procedure. He kind of follows them along to the event, to the party and all that stuff, and he ends up going and confronting Dracula, and Sandra, like he just hits him on the back of the head with like a fire extinguisher. I was like, oh, okay. But he ends up with the investigator girl, and then they go and get gasoline and pour it on the dock and light it on fire.
While Frankenstein is chased Abbott and Costello across the pier. They end up on a boat. He ends up on the pier, and the assistant burns down the pier. And then Frankenstein decides, ooh, pretty, and walks into the fire. And burns to death.
For some reason.
Well, of course, we say burns to death, but he will be back. I am certain because they cannot let any of these people die.
Yeah, no, that is very true.
And then we get a final gag with... in the boat with Abbott and Costello is none other than the Invisible Man, voiced by none other than the absolutely iconic Vincent Price.
Yep. That's the film.
Yep. That was the film. That's what we're going to call it.
Okay.
All right, what's the good
John
about
has
this film?
feelings.
No, yeah, I'm joking. It was a fun movie. What's the good?
The good in it actually was surprising to me. Abbott still have very much this straight man versus the silly act thing that they do that is a very stylistic comedy that actually works really well in the Universal monster films. This reminds, I was telling you before, we were talking about before that we started recording, that this felt a lot like the original Mummy. Was it 1933's Mummy?
I think we're thinking about actually the second Mummy film, not the one with Boris Karloff. Because the one with Boris Karloff was about him trying to get the girl. There wasn't really that friend that did the...
Was that the second one?
The second one.
Okay,
the first one that's actually like the story that carries over. It's the Mummy's curse, or the Mummy's hand.
Yeah, the first Mummy film didn't carry over to those. That's yeah, it would have been the Mummy's hand. Yeah. It reminded me of the Mummy's hand. It had a very there was a side character who was just like his best friend, who was like this goofy, very much like Costello is in this one. Yeah. He was a straight man, and then he was like the Costello like goofy guy, and he runs in the Mummy and gets all frightened, and this reminds me a lot of that. That kind of thing. It's
What
a
was
little
his name,
rough.
Buck?
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
a little rough though because my kind of my least favorite is actually Abbott's part in this because he doesn't feel like he actually belongs in here in this film. I feel like he would have been better as like a main character. Costello's character fits really well into this film.
Costello's character is the main character. It took us about probably a third of the film, a quarter of the film, to actually be like, oh wait, no, that is Abbott. Yeah, that is Abbott. That he is the other main character. Like we thought he was just this guy who was being kind of a jerk to Lou.
Yeah.
Well, not Lou, Wilbur.
But yeah, it was
Lou Costello.
Yeah, it was that was the good about it for me. Like his character fits really well into this film, and it felt a lot like some of the early monster films where there was a little bit of comic relief in some of those, but it was more serious, like the Mummy films specifically, which was kind of refreshing because we've talked about this before. Some of the more recent ones have gotten very comical, not even in like
They've been campy,
but
not even in like a fun way.
No, like
just
the whole movie is
full
cheesy.
cheese. Yeah,
I don't mind some campiness in it, but the entire film is campy compared to some of the original ones. It just, I don't know, it's just not what I expect from them.
it's not really what it used to be.
Yeah. This actually feels more like a Universal monster film than some of the more recent ones we watched.
Which is interesting to say because this one's purposely a comedy, whereas all the other ones they just made them into these like cheesy comedies with horror backdrops. Whereas this one actually has like legitimate, like interesting horror elements done with humor, like actual humor.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree with you. That is kind of the good about this one. I think that the theming is done very well. It feels more natural because it's been very odd that Universal just had this weird shift after Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, where they went full camp. This is for kids. It's just supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be lighthearted kind of thing. And it never really fit. It never really seemed to work because everybody was playing it very seriously, like it was this horror film. The theming was always very dark. The story was dark, but then they just had so many of these weird elements that made it cheesy. This film, however, has a very interesting plot and a fairly coherent plot.
Yeah.
Dracula wants Frankenstein's monster to have a new brain so that he can control him better, so that he can rule the world. He's using this doctor to do it. The Wolfman comes onto the plan.
Well, I don't know.
And tries to foil it.
I don't know as much rule the world.
Well, he wants somebody to
he wants somebody
an enforcer.
He wants an enforcer to protect him while he's asleep, so that he can do his machinations in peace. Is what he wants. It could be world. It doesn't really explain what his actual end goal is, but you can. But he wants an enforcer.
We can assume up to world domination.
Yes. But he wants an enforcer that he can control during the day to protect him.
Yeah, so we have like a classic Universal monster premise. And it's a good crossover. It's using these characters in a relatively intelligent way. And it's using enough of the lore, the backdrop lore, that it feels like part of the universe. Adding Abbott and Costello as the actual comedic drive also feels like it's more justified. Now when there's something that's a little bit off, a little bit campy, doesn't necessarily fit the story, it's because it's supposed to be funny. It's Abbott and Costello. So I would say that's good because it's like it has the camp that the last 4 or 5 or 6 of these movies have had,
but it's
justified.
Yeah.
And it feels not just necessarily intentional, because I think the other ones are intentionally campy.
They felt lazily campy.
And
they felt campy because they were lazy about it, not because they intended it to be silly.
Yeah.
This film, it was silly on purpose, and so it works.
And it has a good blend.
Well, even Invisible Woman and
the Invisible Woman is just they try to make that a full-on comedy.
No,
that's one of the weirdest ones.
It is weird, but it still works at least somewhat as a comedy because it was intentional.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was an intention. A lot of the other ones, I think, we came across comedic unintentionally, and you can tell. Yeah. That one was an intentional comedy. So as a comedy, it worked a little bit better. This is the same kind of effect.
Yeah.
But it's a better film than that one was.
Definitely. And that's the thing, is it's a solid movie. The good about this movie is that it is a good movie. It does what it does, and it does it well. It feels justified for what it is.
I was engaged in this one. A lot of the other ones, I'm like, there's points where I'm just like, this one I was engaged in the whole time.
Yeah, the last two, they've been so short that you almost feel like you haven't had enough time to fully engage it.
Yeah.
And the other ones have been so tonally odd.
Well, and there was the House of Frankenstein and the House of Dracula were of the last few we watched, and they have all these characters like this one does, but it rushes through them.
It rushes through them, and then they have that campy.
This one takes its time to let you get to know the characters and their motives.
Yeah. All right. How about bad? What's bad? Not necessarily the thing you warn people about, but just it's not that great.
Abbott.
That's fair.
His character of the straight man just like ignoring his friend and not believing him the entire time gets old really fast. I would have liked him to actually have been engaged in what was going on a little bit sooner. Maybe even believe his friend, but still be the straight man. Be like, okay, well, yeah, they're real, but how are we going to handle this? Yeah. Like, because that would have been more interesting. Like, if he had been like the Harker character, like, well, he should have been what the assistant doctor is, where he suddenly gets the girl and then like saves the day out of nowhere. That should have been Abbott's part.
Yeah.
Abbott should have been the guy that like saves the day at the end, because he's the serious straight shooter character. He's like, all right, you were right the whole time. Let me just get my hands dirty and get this done. While Costello's still like, ah. I think that would have been a better beat to it than what we got. Because that character just kind of comes out of nowhere and doesn't really do anything other than randomly save the day when you had a character that was there the entire time.
Yeah.
That's mine.
That's fair. And I do agree with you on that one as well. Just it does get old when it's like you're 3/4 of the way through the film and Abbott still does not believe anything that Costello's saying. Like, you're 3/4 of the way through the film. It's like you guys have been through almost all the set pieces. You've been to 6 or 7 different places. And the other thing too is like the last like scene really before they kind of come face to face with the monsters. They're in this castle with secret passages. No comment about that. Where you have like all these like strange secret passages in like a dungeon, and this is creepy. It's weird, and it's odd that the doctor, when they mention that they've been in the basement, gets kind of defensive. You would think that if Abbott playing this straight man character, the smart one, and that's another thing too, is he's supposed to be the smart one. He's supposed to be the one that's very clearly not going to be used as the dummy brain, but he is so adamantly just snarky towards Costello's character that it almost would have been. I almost would have laughed if they had had a dialogue and then Dracula would have been like, "Why are we chasing him? We should just take him. They're the same."
Well, that's different. Part of the Abbott Costello character that they do is the Abbott is the straight man, but he's kind of foolish because he's so grounded in reality. He's not open-minded enough. Okay. Costello is so open-minded that he'll let the insanity in. But he comes across as a doofus, but he's observant. Yeah. Abbott comes across as incredibly straight and intelligent, but oblivious. Okay. But the problem with that is it doesn't work in this film. That's fine that's their thing. Yeah. But like we said, in this film, it doesn't give that part of the humor act doesn't hit the same because of what the circumstances happening them around them are just too odd for that to work. Like you said, it goes through a trap door. Like he noticed they went to a trap door. He even mentions it, but then he doesn't go like, oh, well, that's, suspicious or anything like that. This
is weird.
He does later on when he realizes, when he sees Dracula, he's like, all of the suspicions and normalcy like hits him all at once. It would have either been better that you kept him that straight, keep him in character the whole time, the straight man obliviousness the whole time, not break it at that point, or break it earlier.
Well, you could have had a thing too where even if they're going through all like these strange passages and stuff like that, if you're going to play it like the straight shooter where he's like fully logical to the point where he's just not aware of the weird thing that's happening, have him just be like, dude, we found this like weird like dungeon thing in the basement, and he would just go, well, actually, it makes perfect sense that there would be these passages under this castle because, I mean, what happens if you were getting raided in the middle of the evening? You know, this is a place that you definitely want to go. He turned into a bat. Well, actually, that was probably just an optical illusion, and it's also probably faster to fly.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't he always be a bat? You know, like
he breaks character right towards the end, and they either should have held it or he should have broken character earlier.
Yeah.
They picked a weird moment for him to break it.
Yeah.
That was me.
All right. And I agree with you on that one too. I think another thing that's bad is just if you don't mentally put this movie, like if you're thinking canonically, if you don't put this movie as before the last movie that we saw with the Wolfman, it feels just kind of like a slap in the face.
Yeah.
Because, and not like to the audience, but it's just like, oh man, poor Larry. He literally cannot catch a break. He has been killed 3 times. He has been cured twice.
Yep.
And he's still the Wolfman, and he has the exact same character. But if this is happening between, which, you know, like you said, that's how you were thinking about it, then it makes a lot more sense. It's like, okay, this is just another episode in the life of Larry between point A and point B.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it is just kind of a thing where the fact that Universal keeps bringing back the same monsters and stuff like that, it's getting old at this point.
Right.
How ugly was the thing that you would actually warn somebody about?
My ugly was actually close to what you got, but not quite similar to that point. Continuity. One of the things that they've actually done really well in the Universal films is keeping continuity intact. They make, obviously there's going to be a little bit, especially earlier on when they weren't really necessarily planning on bringing them back. They didn't bring Dracula back at first. They brought the daughter and the son, and then they eventually being Dracula. They don't really do a lot to explain how he's able to come back, but they do in continuity explain how he died, which is exactly how he died in the film. And they do that throughout the Frankenstein films, the Wolfman films. They follow a continuity. This one just breaks that entirely. Dracula just being able to come back, and the monster just coming back, and Lon Chaney coming back have been done. But everyone had the monster come out. Like, he was frozen in the last movie. They found him in ice. Oh, he was caught in a landslide in the last movie. They find him buried in the ground. The Dracula was stabbed in the heart with a stake. They happen to find him with the stake still in him. They pull it out. Like, the continuity's there. There was one kind of major exception which leads into this, which was the House of Dracula. That was the second one, right? So House of Frankenstein, then House of Dracula.
Yeah. That
one doesn't really explain how Dracula's back, but it does for the other characters.
Yeah.
Really well. And Lon Chaney he finally got cured at the end of that one and got the girl in the end. Yeah. After the first girl he liked somebody else. The second girl he liked, he killed. The third girl he liked, he killed. So he's had a lot of trouble, like, in the past, like, killing and maiming and not getting to have his happy ending, and he finally gets it. And this movie goes, nope. And it doesn't really give any reason, which I probably would have accepted if they didn't give a reason why they're back in any of them, but they kept continuity. So if you're gonna do it, you kind of have to do it forever. Either don't do it at all and just have them come back, or continue to do it in a way that makes sense. And just throwing them all in here without any nod or any kind of understanding of how was just a little frustrating, especially right in the early part of the film.
In short, justice for Larry.
Yes.
Hashtag justice for Larry.
It's not even just Larry. It's like the Frankenstein's monster Dracula just show up in crates.
Yeah.
Like, there's just like no No explanation, no reasoning as to why.
There is an explanation, but it happens later. So the Dracula shipped himself.
Yes, they do say
with
that.
his persona.
Yes.
That he gave.
Yes,
Yeah.
they explain that earlier on too, that Dracula was the European fellow that like they explain that Dracula ship is in on it, which is fine, but it doesn't. But how did he get the monster? Like, where are they together? What happened?
I believe that goes down to it's an amazing thing. Actually, it's called the plot. It had to happen.
Yeah, they just this one was quite a bit longer than some of the other ones, and I just feel like they could have even had an opening scene where like Dracula comes out of his coffin and sees that the monster's still alive and goes, I can use him, and that's all you would have to do. This is literally all you have had to do, and I think it gives some suspicion of disbelief is fine, but it just the Lon Chaney one especially mixed with the Dracula and just hits hard. It feels like this happened, like you said, in an earlier canon, like before House of Dracula.
It had to have happened between House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula.
Yeah,
because House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula.
I actually feel if you watched those two with this one in the middle, actually would almost make those better films.
It could, yeah, because he keeps coming back. At the beginning of the last one, like it has been proven that Larry has been killed due to like what the lore tells him. It will kill him eventually, and he always keeps coming back, and he's more depressed. He's always like he literally is the emo kid before the emo kid was a thing.
Yeah,
because all he does, like every time,
I cut myself to feel alive.
Cut my life into pieces. This is my last resort. I just need to die. If I can just die, then I won't hurt anyone anymore.
Yeah. It was sad seeing him back to that state too.
And and it's like
he was so full of hope at the end of the last one. Yeah.
Yeah. He was so happy.
Yeah. What's your ugly?
My ugly of this film is the fact that every single person in the movie fell for the biggest scam I've ever seen in my entire life. They fell for an insurance scam run by a nefarious group of people who literally just named this insurance company Insurance. Not even insurance company, not even the company of insurance, just insurance.
It said Insurance Co. There was a little Co at the bottom.
There was?
Yes.
Okay, well they fell for a scam with Insurance Co. where they sicked their secret police on them in order to try to extort them for money and not give them their claim, just like every other insurance company that's ever existed.
This movie had a complicated plot for an Abbott and Costello film.
It did. Honestly, I agree with you though. Like like I've been agreeing with you this entire time, but it's a very simple movie. There's very few things that I think I can say that would deviate from the points that you're making. I'm sure that we have the exact same iconic as well.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, then I'll
you go first.
All right. Yeah, but I do agree with you. The continuity is bad because personally being invested in the story of Larry, it was bad. It's also ugly how much it breaks the canon.
It hurts so bad because they did such a good job. It's like when you get gold 5 times in a row and then they give you bronze, you're like, what? It just hits harder. Like if it had been bronze the entire time, it's par for the course. But when you get it so good, and they do such a good job of like keeping track of it. I bet they had like some dude locked in a cellar that was like lining up all the continuity of this stuff, and then he died, and they're like, oh crap, what do we do now? That's what it feels like because it was so suddenly off.
We're on to you, Universal. We know why you stopped making Universal movies after the Creature of the Black Lagoon.
Well, I'd even say like, well, you could say like the Abbott and Costello movie is not in the same canon, except for they keep all the same character. Lon Chaney still plays the Wolfman, and he's the same character. You can't do that and be like it's not the same canon. Like,
well, and they try to keep enough of the canon. Like that's another thing too, is they keep enough of the canon to try to explain all these different things. I think they reference like 3 or 4 of the different movies.
They do. They reference other events. Dracula does a couple of times. So, yeah, they reference other previous films in the series, so it takes place in the same universe, and it makes sense too, because Abbott and Costello aren't Abbott and Costello. They're playing characters.
Yeah.
They're playing characters within this universe, so it works.
Yeah. The iconic of this movie, in my opinion, is the humor. Just the jokes, the Abbott and Costello talking, the observational humor, the one-liners, the dialogue. Even
There's
though
some good lines in this film.
Exactly. Even though this movie was made in 1948, the humor is still on point and on par with a lot of the dialogue humor that we get today. Sure, we get a little bit more of the campy slapstick humor from like the silent film age up through probably the 1960s, honestly. I think the last like real slapstick movie was Mad Mad World. That's kind of,
it's an iconic one for like
yeah,
being a one that still was successful and nearly into the 70s.
Yeah.
They've done after
well, I guess
that,
Police Academy and
yeah,
Naked
they
Gun,
still have slapstick, but after that it was mostly cartoons that took it on.
Yeah.
Rather than live action slapstick became less common. It didn't die. It just became less common. I mean, Mel Brooks did slapstick in a lot of his stuff.
Well, right.
Even up until the end of the 90s, because there was a good bit of slapstick
even in the
Men in
producers,
Tights.
yeah.
Producer, and Men in Tights has some slap, so it's still done. It just isn't as common after that point.
Yeah, but the dialogue, the observational humor, the little glances that Costello gives to the camera, all of that still works today, humor-wise. So I would just say that, honestly, the humor was really on point, and most of the acting does work fairly well. The only person that...
Well, and everybody acts seriously.
Everybody acts seriously, and they're in this wacky world, and it's just...
I think that I'm realizing now, so another film we watched fairly recently was Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Right.
And I'm realizing part of the reason that didn't hit as well is Dracula was a kind of silly-ish, sometimes not really. Had he been like a straight man, like had everyone played really serious in that film, except for like the joke characters, that almost would have been funnier. That's kind of what this is.
Yeah.
All the actors in the film are acting like this is a serious film, except for Abbott. Well, even Costello's the only one acting a fool. Everyone else is taking their roles very seriously, and that is why it works. Yeah. If everybody was a goofy like Costello, and every once in a while.
Well, everybody gets kind of infected by goofiness.
Occasionally, other characters might do a thing. It's like Deadpool. Deadpool works because he does the silly stuff all the time. Other characters occasionally participate in his universe, but they never live in it. They visit, but they don't stay. If everybody in a Deadpool film was doing what Deadpool did, it wouldn't work.
Right.
It only works because he stands out. That Costello is much like the Deadpool character. He acknowledges the camera. He breaks the fourth wall. He does silly stuff. Everyone else is playing serious. Right. And they occasionally dip a toe into his world, maybe get a goofy like him, but they step back out into the real world when they need to.
And usually when they do like dip their toe into the goofiness, it's because they're directly dealing with Costello.
Exactly.
So it works. Like I said, the humor is really good. Like, we were chuckling, we were laughing at a lot of their jokes, and a lot of the lines even like just bold. Like there's some bold lines in this one.
It was made in the 40s. I'm like, he said what now?
Yeah. And so it's just the story's done very well. The characters play it very well. Iconic. The humor, in my opinion, is just, it's iconic.
Yeah.
That's why you would watch this movie. If you are going into this movie and you are not told that it's going to be funny, you probably are going to be kind of pissed because it's labeled as a horror.
I don't know.
But at the same time, if you don't know by the title, Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. If you don't know that, that's going to be a comedy.
Well, and they were big names at the time, so they would have been known.
But people still know them.
And people still know who they are now. And it's like I think I was able to quote Who's on First like when I was like in like middle school. Like everybody knows who they are at least a little bit, or at least has heard the name. But I will say to go off that iconic and kind of add a bit to it. Yes, Abbott and Costello are like iconic in this film because that's who they are. But I will say, even if you go in expecting it to be a horror, it still is a horror. They still do the horror. There's the monster fights. There's horror. There is like Costello shows goofy but genuine fear.
Yeah.
He does the cartoonish reaction, but it works in Scooby-Doo. When Scooby-Doo jumps into Shaggy's arm and they run away, but you laugh, but you also sense the genuine fear at the same time.
Well, and that's I think when we were watching, I kind of told you. I think that probably part of the inspiration for Scooby-Doo was these movies, like having Scooby-Doo and Shaggy be the Abbott and Costello in these
That's
worlds.
kind of what it feels like. Yes.
Yeah. Well, not Abbott and Costello in those worlds because Fred would be the Abbott character.
Yes.
Because he's a straight man.
Yes.
And so is Velma. Even Daphne is. Well, they're all straight men except for Scooby and Shaggy. And Scooby and Shaggy
they
are
have their
literally
own
just
personality and like.
well, they
tropes,
have their
but
they have their stuff. But as far as like the running away from the monsters,
Yes.
it's usually Scooby and Shaggy or Costello.
Yes.
So that kind of ties in again with the humor being iconic. It's like it's clear that there has been an impact in pop culture with this. Like Scooby-Doo would not be a thing probably without these movies.
There's a lot of, I can see a lot of that. I feel like Scooby-Doo was inspired by someone that watched one of these films and said, man, what if there was a group of teenagers where they investigated like this kind of thing, like the Frankenstein monster kind of thing, but it was all a ploy or a plot. And there may have been other references. I mean, I imagine even like Hardy Boys and stuff like that came into that too, because I think those came before. I might be wrong on that, but it's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot of inspiration you can draw from a film like this when you take the juxtaposition between a comedy troupe act and like a serious horror film, because they feel like two very different things, but they fit together really well. But that's really going off yours. But I wanted to also say that really for me personally, I have that's I guess like the iconic that I would say to watch something else. But for me personally, what really got me was that they gave the actual like interactions of these characters I wanted in the other films named after them all.
Yeah.
The Wolfman first encounters Frankenstein quite in his second film, I think it is. The second Wolfman film.
Yeah. Because
it's Wolfman meets Frankenstein.
Yeah, because we talked about how the beginning of that movie is clearly a sequel to the Wolfman.
Yeah, and they barely interact. And then in House of Frankenstein, when he's in it, they like have a small interaction. In the last one, he fights with Frankenstein a little bit, but that's it. He never really interacts with Dracula like at all. In this one, he finally gets to fight Dracula. That's what I wanted to see. And this was where I kind of got kind of like goosebumps a little bit, and reminds me a little bit of Van Helsing, where like the wolf fights Dracula.
Yeah.
Like that, I got to see him and he tackles him out the window, and I was like, yes, finally. He actually fought with both of them, and they actually have interactions. All three of them in this film have major interactions with each other.
Yeah.
Whereas in every single one of the other ones where they overact, one or two of the characters either don't meet at all. Like in the House of Frankenstein, Dracula gets offed before Frankenstein's monster even shows up. And in the second one, they make it towards the end, but again, Dracula gets offed before Frankenstein, and then Wolfman fights Frankenstein. You don't get any of that like character interaction of the monsters. You keep promising they're all going to be on screen at the same time, but it's actually just one at a time.
Yeah.
This finally gave us that ensemble that I wanted, and not just the battle, but the battle of wits, because there's a great scene where Lon Chaney and Dracula finally also get a wit battle. They're at the party, and they're exchanging back and forth. He's like, "You're the Dracula," and he's like, "Oh, you're just imagining things, Mr. Chaney."
Yeah, Mr. Talbot.
Mr. Talbot. Like, and Dracula knows who Talbot is. And so they're like, that was that I always wanted that little bit of an exchange like Van Helsing had with him in the first Dracula film, and I got a taste of that in this film, and that Man, if they do more of that, I would be really happy.
Yeah, like more of the monsters stuff.
More monster interaction, more dialogue interaction, more fighting interaction. Yeah, do what you did with the earlier films, but just put the monsters at each other's throats.
Yeah,
make them enemies of each other. That was really fun.
Yeah. One final note, I actually didn't mention this, but I think it's worth mentioning. It is a good. I would say the special effects.
Yeah,
are good because you have because you're you remind me because during their fight they used the special effects to have Larry jump through like off the balcony and fall into water.
Yeah,
but they make the water look like it has rocks and stuff in it, and so it is an effect and it's clearly an effect, but it's like this new thing that they haven't done before. And then on top of that, using an animation like a cartoon animation to actually have the transition between the Bat and Dracula actually worked very well. I think
it works really well in black and white for sure.
Yeah,
I think in color it might be a little more cartoony, but in black and white it worked really nicely.
Well, and also for the time period, it's one of the only times that we actually have like a full blown seeing him go from Bat to.
No, most of the Dracula films they would actually show him as a bat. The camera would turn and it turned back and he's back to himself.
Right, or if they try to do it on screen, it's just like a anthropomorphous blob.
Yes, it happens really fast.
Yeah.
It's like, bloop, he's a person.
Yeah.
So they can speed it up so that you can't really tell what they did. Yeah. This one gives like form and shape to him. It was kind of fun. That was a cool effect.
So that's just a good. I forgot to mention
like
that,
a shout out. Yeah,
it's just like a shout out. It's like an additional little like. Good job. Here's your nugget.
You did good.
Yeah.
Good job.
Good. Kudos. Glitter. Sparkle. You did it. Hooray!
Gosh.
All right. You have any other thoughts? Good, bad, ugly, iconic?
Nope. That's it for me.
All right. Let's talk. Universal actually approaches us for once, and they ask us to make a modern day equivalent to this movie. What is a way that you could make a movie like this for a modern audience?
A lot of Mel Brooks' stuff gets close to this, but that's more comedy. I'm thinking if you're thinking of like the idea of like a comedy troupe act in a serious film. Where because a lot of things that do this kind of thing, the whole film is a parody. So like Scream would probably be a good example of this, where it's a kind of a serious slasher in and of itself, but it's also making fun of slashers while being a serious slasher.
Yeah, it's a meta slasher.
It's a meta slasher, but that's still not quite. I'm trying to think of like what you're doing here. I can't think of anything else that actually does, because the scary movies are pure parody. A lot like movies like Airplane, Hot Shots, those are parody films. Everything is a joke or an expense of another film. Mel Brooks' stuff. I would say Blazing Saddles gets kind of close.
Well, yeah, like Young Frankenstein gets pretty close.
Young Frankenstein actually gets really close, where the other actors are like really serious in the film. The villain is goofy in Blazing Saddles, but like the townspeople are like acting in serious distress and everything. And the sheriff and his deputy, they're kind of like goofy characters, but everyone else around them is like straight laced, including the villain that he fights, like the actual the shootout that he has with the other guy, the henchman. It was kind of close to something I could do. And I'm trying to think. That's the kind of thing I would do with it, is take a famous like comedy group and stick them into a serious film. So I mentioned Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo does this really well. They stick them into like in the films they did where they actually meet the real monsters and stuff.
Yeah, they've done that.
They've done that.
They have Scooby and Shaggy. Scooby and Shaggy have run into Dracula and Frankenstein, and then you have the Ghoul School where they're all actually the monsters.
Yeah, but they've actually done it where it's not a guy in a mask. It's like the real creatures.
The greatest film of all time, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. Just
too many things I'm thinking of that have been done in modern time have been actual full-blown comedies or parodies. So it would be kind of neat to do that. What I'm trying to think of is a group, like who's Abbott and Costello of today. A lot of them, one I can think of is Robin Williams, who's now passed away, but he would be a good example. He's done that in a lot of his films. He's a comedic character when everybody else around him is straight-laced. Good Morning Vietnam is a great example of that. So is Patch Adams. Where, like, everybody else is like, dude, take this seriously, and he's just a goofball. But
how about Key and Peele?
Key and Peele would be a good example. Take Key and Peele and stick them into but the rest of the film has to be serious. It can't be like even the ones that I get close to, the character is still silly to everybody else. You need them to no one to like take them seriously. They're taking them seriously even though they're being goofy.
And it's kind of hard to find an actual duo to do what Abbott and Costello did in this film because there hasn't been another duo that's like that. You have shows, but Key and Peele they both play.
No, they have one.
Characters.
Well, yes, that's true. But you do get a lot of them where one of them plays a straight-laced character. A good example of this is the thrift store one, where Peele is playing a very serious like character, and Key is playing like a caricature of a character. They could pull it off. I just don't know what you would use as the background. If I was gonna do horror, something that actually be really fun would be like a cabin style. Oh, they did do this. What's the name of that film where the two rednecks, like all these kids, get themselves killed?
Tuck and Dale versus
Evil. Tuck and Dale versus Evil is actually kind of like the modern version of this.
Although there's not a monster in that one.
No,
the kids kill them.
They all kill themselves. They are the monster.
Yeah, the one.
Everybody thinks they are. Everybody thinks they're the killer, and they kill themselves trying to save each other from them, and they just do stupid stuff. But that's very close.
That's pretty close.
That's pretty close.
It's like a slasher where the rednecks in the woods are killing the teenagers that are out trying to get drunk and party. I would take that something along that lines, but go on. Take Key and Peele or another comedy troupe and put them in a series. The Haunted Mansion. Think of if the Haunted Mansion was done and then like Key and Peele were there and they were the only one, and Peele was like the only one being kind of goofy, and Key was being kind of serious, and everyone else is just being regular actors in the movie. Haunted Mansion style film, or like would be not necessarily the Haunted Mansion, but like House on Haunted Hill, Haunted Mansion, a haunted house kind of story would be a really fun one to do with that. The Muppets did one. They did a Muppet version of Haunted Mansion, and funny enough, Gonzo's like the straight character while Pepe's like the freaked out all the time and scared all the time. Gonzo's just like, I'm living for this. This is dangerous. This is cool. That got kind of close to where I would go with it. Something along those lines. I don't know that I can really put a plot together off the cuff here, just because that's such a unique thing to build. But that would be the feel that I'm going for. A straight-laced horror film with a comedy duo that is just doing their thing. Another thing to think would be like Key and Wonka. How he's getting like overweight each time, and everyone kind of notices it, but they don't really make a big deal about it. He like the audience is laughing, but everybody else is just like, okay, like what is this? Something like that. Clearly getting paid off with chocolate.
Yeah,
talks about it.
It's just something that's like silly or off-putting or out of place, but the rest of the film fits.
Yeah. One thing that could actually work. if we're going to throw a plot together, something that's really kind of come out is a lot of this like subjective horror where it's like the people either go into a situation not taking it seriously, or they end up like one or two of them know exactly what they're getting into, but they don't know how far it's going to go.
Yeah.
So it's like The Menu. So The Menu had a theme where it's like it's a bunch of snooty people and they don't realize that the staff of this exclusive kitchen have kind of made like a blood pact essentially, where they're done serving the rich and they're going to make a message out of them. So they're going to kill them off. It's an interesting movie. Then there's Midsummer, where you have a group of students that kind of get roped into studying a cult, like a Scandinavian cult, that are about to do their midsummer ritual, and they don't realize that they've actually become actively a part of it until they're getting picked off one by one. So you could do this for the plot. You could actually have it where Key and Peele, because we'll use Key and Peele. They're probably the closest to Abbott and Costello that we have right now.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Unless you're talking maybe like Shane Gillis or somebody, like you would end up with a full-blown comedian as compared to like a TV movie personality-esque comedian. There's a difference still. So let's say Key and Peele end up in kind of the plot of Midsummer, and Key is the researcher guy who thinks that, oh, well, we're just here to observe. They have this weird custom. People think that it's really weird, but it's actually not. I don't understand why nobody actually like has fully really just shown how it's just this interesting but alternative culture kind of thing.
Right.
And then Peele is actually seeing like, you do know that they're like, you did not just eat a pig when they said long pig. That's Carl. You know, who he came in with, and you know, you can have a whole scene where like he sees that they actually like slaughtered this dude for like a ritual, and then they're all serving him up, and he's the only one that's like, no, oh come on, it's rude that you don't like partake in this food with us. You know, like we don't want to insult them. We want to stay here. I'm fine insulting them. Like I'm not eating this. It's Carl. You know, you could play
it's actually
that.
like a lot of the films that Peele has actually directed himself, like Get Out and what's the one about the shadow, or Nope, the alien one.
Yeah.
Like, he directs a lot of films like that, like you're describing.
Yeah.
Where it's like there's the one character who's like, why is this happening?
But see, like that's what I would do. Like make like a Midsummer or something like that, where you have the person who's like the intellectual who's just going in and trying to be like, I'm understanding culture and I'm so well learned. And then his one friend who's like there because he's like, yo bro, you told me it was going to be like a party. Like there was going to be food, there was going to be drugs, there was going to be whatever else. I'm there for it, man. And then it turns out that it's like, no, you just sent us to a death cult, man. They're going to kill us.
The other thing you could do is just go all in and just be like Key and Peele meet the Mummy and just do, or meet the Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Just make the same film with a modern audience troupe
and
as well.
You probably could, and actually it would probably work better just because we've been so far removed from all these characters. They wouldn't care about the continuity. You can actually just introduce them and be like, hey, like what everybody assumes Dracula's like, that's Dracula. What everybody assumes Frankenstein's like, that's Frankenstein. Whatever everybody assumes the Wolfman's like, that's the Wolfman. We don't need it'd be more of like just references at that point as compared to the actual story.
Yeah, it would work actually pretty well. That was the other thing. It'd be more fun, I think, to do something unique with it, but you could at this point honestly just remake a film like this with a new comedy act. But yeah.
Well, that's just what I think. Speaking about thinking things, what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. What did you think about Abbott and Costello Meet the Wolfman, the video? We already know what we're going to do as this series is wrapping up. I think we're in the last 5 or so of this series. Once we're done with this, we're going to be moving on to Hammer Horror. But we're always open to you guys' feedback and comments. Be sure to leave those in the comments below. Otherwise, leave a like. Let us know that you like this stuff, because we appreciate you guys, and we appreciate getting likes, because I live for the dopamine hit. It makes things easier. Anyway, otherwise, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and be sure to share us with your friends. If they like movies like you like movies, if they have the same humor, they probably would appreciate these videos like you do. DJ, any final thoughts?
Nope.
All right.
That's it for me.
Oh, shoot. We always like to just do a little plug when we have these like box sets and stuff like that. This is the Universal Classic Monsters complete 30 film collection that they did for the 100th anniversary of Universal Studios. It is a gorgeously redone, remade, remastered, digitized version of all of the classic Universal monster movies. The sound's incredible. The picture has been just fantastic in all of these.
I've never actually seen any of these in their original form, but I saw a couple of them. I think Dracula, bits and pieces, and other ones on like YouTube on their original build. It's a significant improvement from their original release.
Yeah. So if you want to follow along, or if you just like these movies and stuff, this is a great way to enjoy those movies. Otherwise, I guess we'll talk to you the next time that we enjoy a movie, which will be in the next video. We'll see you then.
Thanks for watching.